What's going on, guys? This is MartyrsBrigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls PvP. Alright guys, we're back at it once again with yet another volume in the Battle of the Uploader series. Now, first and foremost, before we get started, I'd like to give a thanks and send a shout out to good old Henry. He is the next volunteer for the Battle of the Uploader series, and this will be yet another Xbox edition. Now, I don't really know too much about old Henry, other than he visits the Twitch. He has a channel up to this point with a number of videos. I haven't watched every single video, but I've definitely watched a good number of them, and there's some awesome PvP action in there. As a matter of fact, he even has a nice trolling video going on. So if you guys want to check out some good material from an up-and-coming uploader, please go ahead, check out and support his channel. I'll make sure to include the link to his channel in the description box. Now, I know, as a matter of fact, speaking of funny, he had a recent video where he's kind of trolling the Berg. I think it was kind of funny. He was kind of rolling around with his Havels, not full Havels, but you know, kind of like the Havels piece, and he was forcing opponents off ledges and all. It was pretty funny. So like I said before, you guys want to get inspired by some good visual PvP action, go ahead and please click on the link in the description box and check out his channel. You guys, I'm pretty sure, will be as satisfied as I was. Alright, so now this time around, you know, I didn't really do anything special. I'm only going to be using my strength build. Now, one thing that I will say with regard to this particular series, and not only for good old Henry, but also for a lot of guys that may be fighting a lot of pretty experienced PvPers. Now, there's a tactic, right, that I like to call the bait and switch tactic. I want you guys to pay close attention to whenever he does. Well, actually, I won't even say whenever he does. Please pay close attention to whenever he pulls out the bow. The vast majority of the cases, what he does with the bow is he does a heck of a lot of bait and switch tactics. Now, the downside to this, just like right there. Now, some of you guys may say to yourself, holy crap, why are you only going in for a BS? Well, let me tell you why, guys. During the times that I was having matches with him, and not only him, the last few people that I have fought, I have noticed that a lot of people have caught me on the bait and switch tactic. Right? So since I realized, you know, since I've made my own assessment that a lot of people do the bait and switch tactic, I said, you know what? Never again. I've gotten enough experience of falling for the okie doke with regard to the bait and switch tactic. And you know, before I even continue to go more into it, let me just go ahead and explain what the bait and switch tactic is, in the event that there's some, you know, relatively new guys out there that may not necessarily be familiar with what I'm talking about. Now, the bait and switch tactic is pretty simple. It's a situation wherein you are using your bow and arrow, and you know, because you are kind of like continuously popping off bows, in most cases your opponents get really annoyed, right? And after dodging so many arrows, they come in at you, you know, with either a running attack, or you know, they come in with a running jumping attack. Now, the reason why I say is a bait and switch is because since you're using the bow, that's what you want them to do. And once they fall in for the bait, what you do is you go ahead, pull out your high-speed shield, and you parry. That's the bait and switch, right? And, I do the bait and switch a lot. But see, the thing is, the bait and switch works a heck of a lot on noobs, right? But if you're dealing with an experienced player, you guys might want to kind of pay close attention to detail with regard to how often you do it. Case in point. Now, if you guys can kind of notice for yourself, he's not really doing it as often as he was in the beginning, and that was only because of the punishment that I gave him on a number of occasions. Right? Now, here's one suggestion that I would have, not only for good old Henry, but for anyone else to like to get practice on the bait and switch. Now, if you guys want to get practice on the bait and switch technique, do it against randoms that you will not continue to have matches with. In some cases, whenever you have a series of matches against the same person over and over, just like in this instance, you run the risk of your opponent paying attention to your patterns and exploiting them. Right? Because as a matter of fact, I even kind of, after the match was over, I said, hey dude, you might want to kind of watch your bait and switch tactics, because you did it so many times that I said, oh, okay, so he just want to, go ahead and pop off arrows and then turn around and parry. No, that's not going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and try to deter that. Right? But, other than that, I think it was an awesome series. He used, and actually I don't really know what kind of build he used. I didn't know if it was a pure quality build. I don't know if it was a strength build. I don't know, if it was a dexterity build, or if he just had a, jack of all trades build. That's what I would call it. But whatever it was, he was able to use a wide variety of weapons. And with being able to use a wide variety of weapons, he was able to take a lot of opportunities, and therefore not having to worry about limiting himself based upon having an only strength build or only dex build. Right? So I think that was a good thing with regard to his build. So I don't know, like I said before, I'm not really sure if he does commentaries. So to the extent that he does have a mic and chooses to do a commentary, and that's even to the extent that he chooses to upload this, because in other words, if he doesn't do commentaries, I don't know if he would be willing or likely to upload it. Right, but to the extent that he does have a mic and is willing to upload it, perhaps he can give you guys a little detail with regard to his build. But if you just pay close attention, you'll notice he's kind of pulling everything out, right? He's pulling pikes out, strength weapons, dexterity weapons. He's pulling some of everything out, hand axes, Zweihanders, rapiers, and from what I have seen, for the most part, none of them seem to be elemental weapons. Right, so either he has an awesome, basically quality build, 40-40, 35-35, in some cases, or he just did a real quick switch between builds in between matches. Right, because if you guys can notice at this point, he's kind of fast rolling with the pike, and that appears to be the pike. And actually, right there, I thought I would have got that parry. The timing just seemed to be right, but I guess it wasn't. But it is like it is. It's just like that sometimes. Sometimes you get a parry, sometimes you don't. But it's all to the good, right? Because it's all about PvP. Alright, so you guys notice I am using my pure strength build, and right now I'm kind of rocking the Black Knight Great Axe. Right, and like I said before, some of you guys may say to yourself, holy crap dude, you kind of BS that guy a whole bunch of times. Like I said before, guys, if you pay attention, the vast majority of the time I am punishing the bait and switch tactic. Right, so like I said before, for a lot of you guys that like to do the bait and switch, here's my suggestion. Try to do the bait and switch with randoms. Randoms, in most cases, will fall for it. If you are in a series or in a fight club, and actually this is probably even a good suggestion during a fight club. If you're in a fight club and you just so happen to fight the same people over and over and over, you might want to mix it up. Case in point, in some cases maybe you just want to, pull out the bow, shoot off about 3 or 4 arrows, go back to your weapon. In other cases, you may want to do a bait and switch situation. After that, you might want to, shoot off 3 arrows, flip around 2 or 3 times, shoot off 3 arrows, flip around 3 times, then switch off to your weapon. But at least when you're kind of switching it up, your opponent does not have the time to pay attention to patterns. Now, why do I stress the attention to detail with regard to patterns? Here's why. Because if you guys notice, he tried to hit me with the bait and switch right there. Here's why I say it's important. From what I have seen for myself, you have some people out here who they basically just have their own play style and they just engage despite what's going on and regardless of what their opponent is doing. Me, on the other hand, I do not play the same, right? Because, like I said before, I like to pay attention to patterns. Because, as a matter of fact, I've had some guys say, dude, you're just kind of, I don't really know what to say about your gameplay, because in some instances you are offensive, in other instances you're more defensive. Well, the reason why I switch it off like that is because in some cases I can't even say in some cases. In most cases, I'm making assessments of my opponent's gameplay style, right? And I'm looking for patterns. I'm looking for my opponent to do the same thing over and over again. May it be rolling R1s, may it be spamming, may it be the bait and switch, may it be attack combinations. Because if you guys would notice, I didn't really throw that many parries. And why is that? He didn't really have that many consistent patterns to where I felt comfortable enough with pairing. Up until the one time that I parried him with the Zweihander. And that was kind of obvious because he kind of did that a lot, right? He just jumped around a couple times and, hit the R1 with the Zweihander. So I said, okay, well, that's kind of obvious because a lot of people do that. But because he switched off with a lot of his weapons, it was kind of hard for me to notice, right, with each particular weapon, what pattern he would establish. The only common denominator that he had with regard to the series is the bow, right? So in other words, although he did switch off a lot of weapons and it was a little difficult for me to assess patterns then, the common denominator allowed me to exploit his usage of the bait and switch tactic. All right, so like I said before, that's one of the reasons why I practice with a lot of weapons, because I think when you're the type of guy that, let's just say you use a katana all the time, if you're known for only using katanas, number one, the katana only has a limited moveset, as with all weapons, because most weapons have a limited moveset. But knowing that, case in point, let's just say, for example, I have a series of 20 matches, right? And during each match, my opponent only uses a katana. Now, if this is the case, the way I look at it, the match is pretty much simple, right? Because we all know that the limitations that the katana has, right? With regard to the moveset, very limited. So basic, and most people just use it the same way all the time, right? Either they'll hit you once and just dodge for like 10 minutes, hit you another time, dodge for 10 minutes, hit you a third time, flip around for 20 minutes, right? Or they'll spam the R1. Or they'll just do a lot of running running two-handed and one-handed R1s. No big deal. If they use a katana all the time, you know what weapon to counter with. Because think about it, you got a guy who likes to use a lot of those katanas, and the easy counter will be a halberd, right? Because they will not be trying to come in close with those one-handed and two-handed R1s all the time, because you have a weapon to kind of maintain the distance, right? And not only that, in some cases, depending upon how you play, you can motivate them to start spamming the R1, and that's another thing that you want to do. right? So, like I said before, this is one of the main reasons why me in particular, I like to switch up a lot of weapons. Now, granted, I know that if you are experienced, you may say, well, listen, Brigade, you really don't have to switch off a lot of, you don't, in other words, even if you do switch off weapons, people can still figure out your patterns because all weapons have limited move sets. Yeah, that's true, but it doesn't mean that people will employ them the same, right? Doesn't mean that. In other words, you may have a halberd. Maybe some people may do more one-handed thrusts. Others may do more jumping attacks. Some people may do more two-handed thrusts, right? Maybe somebody may go, one-handed, two-handed jump attack. So, I say all of this to say that when you guys, especially during setup bouts, right, like a case in point, like in the arena, or in a fight club, or in a tournament, please mix things up, guys, because you do not want to run into an opponent that you feel like, man, this guy knows everything what I'm going to do. And it's not necessarily because your opponent is some kind of super hotshot. No, it's just because that particular opponent has paid enough attention to detail to be able to read and interpret what you're going to do. Right? And this is even a problem that I have within myself, because I don't know if you guys have kind of paid attention to my videos lately, but I've even said to myself, there's a habit that I have with halberds and spears, where I will follow up a kick with an attack, and a lot of people has been able to exploit that and parry immediately after the kick. So I said to myself after that, I said, you know what? I need to go ahead and change that up, right? I don't know if maybe I need to parry. I don't know, maybe I need to kick twice. Maybe I need to just kick and back off, But if I do the same old kick and attack method, I'm going to get parried all the time because it's so obvious. And I do not want to be obvious, right? Because the less obvious you are, the more difficult it is for your opponent to read your moves. Alright, so, enough about that rant about being a little less predictable in your tactics. Alright, so, like I said before, once again, I like to offer a thanks and show my appreciation to good old Henry. I'm going to go ahead and include the link to his channel in the description box. I hope you guys will go ahead and check it out and support it. This upcoming high-speed uploader. Now, hopefully some of these uploaders will not only include footage, right, because we all know the guys like to see awesome footage, but there are a large population of guys out there that also want to hear commentary, right? They want to hear fresh ideas, new ideas. They want to hear things that go ahead and make them think in ways other than what they previously, may have thought. Right, so that's why we need a little more commentators out there, aside from, all these videos that'll show 50 parries straight or 100 parries straight. Right, so let's go ahead and mix it up, guys. Alright, guys, well, until next time, Martyrs Brigade is